G'day everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. I certainly hope you have been having a great weekend. We're already in Monday, as you know, and I had a pretty good weekend in so much as I'm starting to feel a lot better after my bout with shingles. For those of you who follow along, I was sick with what is a rather common ailment for those of us who are of a little bit of an older generation, where if you had chicken pox, you can then get in an adult version called shingles, and it can be really nasty. But in my fortunate case, it was rather mild, and I've been able to get over it in about 3 weeks, I think it's taken. But yeah, it did take the wind out of my sails, so it's good to be kind of feeling very close to normal, very close. I'd give myself a 95%, so as I said, pretty close. We are doing a Q&A today, so you ask the questions, I provide the answers to the best of my ability, and I'm looking forward to that. We've already got a question in here from none other than Mackenzie Kate, so we'll get to Mackenzie's question in a moment. If you've got a question, make sure you throw it into the live chat. You do have to subscribe to the channel to leave a question. Now, the reason we do that is very much from a moderation point of view. This is a family-friendly channel, and we do try to really protect the chat from unsavory comments, trolls, if you will. So we do like you to subscribe to the channel, ask your questions. Of course, if you absolutely need to have your question answered, because we answer the questions in chronological order as they come into the chat, we answer the question. But if you want to jump the queue, then throw in a super chat. All super chats go to supporting the channel and running the channel, and they're gratefully received. And as a thank you, we bump your question up and prioritize it so that it gets answered. Next week, we have a special guest on. Now, last week, I told you that our special guest would be Melissa Cross, that no other than Melissa Cross from Zen of Scream. She is going to be joining us, just not next week. She had a clash of calendar. She double booked herself, and so we've been able to move her into probably about 6 weeks away. I'll let you know when she's coming. She is coming on, I promise. She's super keen to come on to the show. For your interest's sake, don't miss that show, because when Melissa comes on, Melissa's when I interviewed Melissa for the first time, we've only ever had Melissa on the show once. It is still my highest viewed long form, as in interview video, on the channel. We're up to something like, I think that, I don't even know how many views. It's had tens of thousands of views. I think I went to say it's up over 50,000, but it might be a bit under that. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is it's worth the watch, and we're having her come on again, and it's going to be worth the watch. So make sure you don't miss out. Next week, I've been able to ask a long-time friend of the channel, Markwart Deveaux, and I always struggle with that name because it's so fancy. Michelle is coming onto the show, and we, is there a topic that I have not discussed with Michelle? I think we've found one, and we're going to be talking about, and this is super important, the attitude of singers. How does attitude affect everything about your singing? And I'm reading a great book at the moment about mindsets by Professor Carol Dweck. Anyway, it's called Mindsets or something like that. And it's all about fixed mindsets, growth versus growth mindset. And And there is in part some discussion. Well, I'm only sort of 3 chapters into this book, but there's this sort of sense of attitude about the way we orientate our mindset. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, next week when Michelle joins us. It's going to be a great show, and I'm hoping that you can join us. Now, we're going to get to the questions because there's not a lot of... can I let you in on a little secret? Just a little secret that's actually worth a lot. The little secret is this morning I changed the price points on all of the Voice Essentials online courses. I'm not going to tell you what they changed them to. If you go to the link that's coming across the bottom of your screen right now, that one there, voiceessentials.com.au, you will see a whole new series of price points. I won't say any more. I did it this morning. I've been thinking about it for a number of weeks, decided to do it today. Very excited to do it. And in one sense, it's a little bit of an experiment. I'm just going to see what happens. That's all I'm going to say, because we really want to get to our Q&A, which we'll do right after this. Now, it will come as no surprise to you that Mackenzie is the first person to get a question. Mackenzie is so quick to get in with her questions, and so she gets to be the first. And this is what the question looks like. Mackenzie is asking, when I sing, it feels tight, especially in my upper register, and I have to push extra hard to get that sound out. If I reach my 14th day and my voice still is struggling to return, should I get it scoped? So this is a little bit of background, which I have because I can see the chat. Mackenzie has been a little bit under the weather. I'm sorry to hear that, Mackenzie. And you've been applying the ×2 rule, and I saw that you were on, I think, day... Did I see that you were on kind of day 8 of what is a day, or 14 day, because you've been sick for 7 days. And so when we apply the rule of thumb of ×2, we can anticipate that it's going to take you around about 14 days for the voice to really come good again. Ish. Remember, it's a rule of thumb. It's not an exact science. You're not going to find this rule of thumb in the textbooks anywhere. This is my observation that just helps us to guide our expectations, manage what we expect of the voice after being unwell. And Mackenzie's been at day 8. So I guess in one sense, Mackenzie, you're kind of at the halfway point. And you've said that you have to push extra hard to get the sound out. And that's to be expected, because when you have been unwell, there's inflammation. Typically, we would expect, if we scoped you, to observe some inflammation of the vocal folds, and therefore the PTP, the phonatory threshold pressure that that the vocal folds would require to create sound would increase, and therefore the laboursome sort of activity be required would be significantly more. And so it's going to take, we just have to be patient. Now, one of the challenges is that you know, when we're doing a performance, and I think from memory, when I looked here, I'm gonna read over onto the document that Linda has for us, when we talk about the fact that Mackenzie, some background, Mackenzie's had acute laryngitis. That means, you know, just momentary. She's now in her subacute phase, which we've just been talking about. she's still feeling unwell with lingering cough, but she has to sing in musical rehearsals. Firstly, I would have the conversation with your musical director and the show director to let them know about your current condition, to let them know that if they observe you not, giving full voice, that there's a reason for that, so they know not to kind of make a big deal of it, and for them to be just in the picture, for them to know, so that they don't start placing requirements on you that are going to put your voice at risk. If you're feeling up to it, it is a good thing for you to still be at the rehearsals, all being you're not, carrying any sort of infectious virus. I'm thinking particularly of COVID here. And so if you can, at a sub-level participate in the rehearsals without giving, a high vocal output, then there's value in that if you can. But I do think that at this very moment in time, Mackenzie, it is going to be worthwhile you kind of just continuing to be very measured in the use of your voice, just so that you don't prolong that recovery rate for your voice. You can really, if you start to sing on it and load it up before it's ready, it is just going to, take that ×2 rule out a bit further, I think. So just be mindful of that. If you, to answer your final part of your question, if you reach the 14th day and your voice is still struggling to return, should you get it scoped? Look, the rule of thumb is typically around about the 2 to 3 weeks that we would generally encourage. If the voice has not returned to within its normal parameters of what you would expect, then as someone who wants to use their voice at a professional level, then yeah, it can be worthwhile having it scoped. And sometimes the value of having it scoped is simply to put your mind at rest, to go, okay, it's all good. It's just going to take a bit of time for the healing to be finalized, to be completed. We can also, in that process, find other things that we need to address. But, even if nothing is found, what can be found is that it's fine, and that makes you feel better. And so that's actually of high worth to many singers. I say all this understanding that the process of having your voice scoped by a laryngologist or a voice specialist, ear, nose and throat doctor can be expensive. And so you do have to weigh up the cost to benefit, ratio, and each individual is going to assess that differently. But certainly I have encouraged students in the past to have their voice looked at because it's not returning to within normal parameters as we would perhaps expect, and so it can be good to go through that process. The wonderful Linda has a question, and question from me again. Hey Dan, can we just all as a community wish Linda's family the absolute chookers for this weekend? They have a big family event happening, a wedding, not of Linda. Linda's happily married, but one of Linda's children is getting married. It's very exciting, and Linda, we just wish you the very best. I'm sure it'll be a marvelous weekend. It's a big deal, to be a parent of a child getting married, and so we wish you all the best. I'm sure it'll go great, and you can tell me all about it during our private lessons. I know it's been a big deal getting it all together. Weddings are big, right? They're big. Okay, So, hey Dan, what is your opinion on laryngeal massage for voice therapy? Ooh, this is a great question, Linda. What is my opinion? Look, when done, and this is a really important, contextualization of the question and the answer. When done by a highly trained and qualified osteopath, it's very effective. But there are not many people on the planet who have this level of training. Laryngeal massage is something that is the majority of the work that I've been aware of has happened in the UK, and they have a number of well-trained people in the UK who do this work. Almost certainly there are people in the US. There may even now be some people here in Australia who are able to do this. Laryngeal massage is, look, I remember I have had my larynx approached by someone who was qualified, and I found it too confronting, for the want of a better term, to have my larynx manipulated. It's a highly vulnerable process. If you think about why that might be, it's because the larynx is the gateway to your air. It is the point at which your airflow, it's the gateway to that movement of air into your lungs. Choking, think about how violent the response your body has to choking, on the smallest of crumbs, just simply because the smallest of little bit of fluid because you've swallowed something the wrong way. The reason we go into such a violent response is because our body knows is that the opportunity for either choking or drowning is life-threatening. And so we go into that really significant response. Hence, when someone comes to actually manipulating your larynx, and when we talk about manipulating, they literally can pull it forward, twist it in the neck, and massage the arytenoid, the cartilage that sits at the back of the voice. Even thinking about it makes my skin crawl a little bit. There's nothing wrong when it's being done by a highly qualified person, but you have to be an able and willing participant in what is a highly vulnerable process. And those people who I know who have had it done have expressed that there was a great deal of value to them and their voice in the release of some very specific muscle tension, and that's typically what we would use it for. I'm not the only person that has expressed a great sense of disquiet over the process. I've talked to a number of respected colleagues who have also kind of made the approach to have it done and then had to pull out and go, I can't do it. Can I also tell you that I'm also I'm in that class of human being that I can't do the chiropractic thing at all. In fact, when I go to a physio, if my physio, who is trained in manipulative physio, I'm not sure whether that's the exact correct term, but where they do employ some manipulation that has some cracking in it, I can't. It's written on my file. Daniel does not do cracking of any form on any ligament on any structural part of his body. So, you know, if you're pretty cool with that kind of thing, maybe you'll be fine with laryngeal massage, Linda, because it's yeah, it's a thing. It's a good thing. So don't hear my reservations, which are purely personal, as being professional reservations when done by a qualified osteopath. I'm pretty sure it's an osteopath that will do this kind of work. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful, my good friend Linda. Now we've got Alejandro. Is that how do you know what? I am the worst at pronouncing names. And I apologize for that. Alejandro? How would you pronounce that? I'm terrible. I'm going to answer your question regardless. What's your first impression on this? Do you think Frank Sinatra used head voice, mix, or pure chest? Ooh. I'm sure we could, if we were to review the full gamut of Frank Sinatra's recordings, we're probably going to find examples of all of the above. Where did he spend the majority of his time? I would think in a short and a dominant, well-balanced, beautiful tone. We know Frank Sinatra's voice is having that beautiful, rich baritone tonality. But that's not to say that he didn't employ mix. It's not to say that he didn't enter his falsetto. But he I don't think that's what he was known for. You know how some singers become known for certain sounds. It becomes their signature. And I think old Blue Eyes was not known for falsetto. Let's put it that way. He was known for very balanced tone. And if anything, besides that short and a dominant value that he might have been known for, would be more of a mix where he's building in a gradiated tone. I'm of course making all these statements off the top of my head without, you know, for all of those people watching who might find themselves in the gotcha crowd, you know, gotcha Dan. I'm not able to, as I'm responding off the cuff, reference every single, you know, piece of music off his discography. So by all means, put in the comments if I've missing something or forgetting exactly how Frank Sinatra sang. But I think for the most part, short and a dominant with some mix, but certainly not to the complete exclusion of other aspects of his voice, I wouldn't have thought. Now let's answer some questions that were, you know, that we didn't get to in a couple of previous videos. And this is Juitar. How can I sing high but softly like pop singers? When I sing high, it doesn't strain, but I just go into belt. Yeah, so that's a great question to lead off from what we were just answering, and that is, it comes down to how you manage the movement of your registration. And it's unfortunate in one sense that we've become, on the internet is kind of, the conversation around registers has devolved to this polarization of chest voice, head voice. And the reason I say it's devolved to that is because when I'm singing, for example, I'm not thinking, am I in chest voice, am I in head voice? What I'm thinking is, what am I wanting to express aesthetically at this very moment in time? And that's going to change throughout a song. So the melody is not going to dictate that. The narrative arc is going to dictate that. And so it's me being in control, me having the managerial control of my voice that enables me to decide at any given moment the weight, if you will, of the tone, therefore the manner of registration that I'm employing. That's what's going to drive it, not whether I'm in head voice or chest voice or falsetto. And so it does come back to this technical prowess of each singer to know that they have full facility of their voice. And we certainly do develop the voice technically by focusing in on certain technical attributes. So we registrational attributes. So we spend, you know, in Voice Essentials, we'll spend a lot of time workshopping belt, which is a short and a dominant activity. It's certainly the way I use the term belt. But then there are activities in Voice Essentials 3. There's an activity that works on falsetto. And so we zone in on falsetto, but that's not because when you then come to sing that you're thinking about it all in isolation from one another. No, it's just so that you have developed the facility of voice and you've got the technical prowess to be able to manage the narrative arc. The narrative, the storyline, the messaging of each voice. Can you hear that? I've got birds outside singing. The message of each voice, the message of each song is actually paramount. I have said this until I'm blue in the face. I'll continue to say it. Singing's not about perfect notes. It's not about registration. Singing's about communication. And when we remember to orientate to the communication, then everything else can line up behind that and have the right amount of attention applied to it. And so I think that's an important thing for us to remember. The guy recently was talking, this is back, the guy asked this question way back in March, March 7, 20, last year. Wowzers. Okay, do you have a video on how to make your voice raspy? Yes, I do. You can check that out via the YouTube channel, and just click on when you go to the channel page, click on the video tab, and there's a search function. Just type in the word raspy, and I think you'll find it. The Volt Boy, this is an interesting question. As a male, how do I sing in the 5th octave? He goes on to write, I feel as if the higher I go, the sound needs to come via my nasal passage, but it cuts off and my neck tenses up at the sides. That's sounding like an airflow challenge. Going up into the 5th octave, so I'm talking everything C5 and above, that's high for a guy. High for a guy. Not impossibly high, but high nonetheless. Most male voice types are going to find themselves singing up there in falsetto. And if your voice type is like mine, you might find yourself, I've sung in full voice above that C5, but the vowel has to be right, the approach needs to be right, there's a lot of practice, there's a little bit of hit and miss. But generally, we would expect to be in falsetto. Falsetto, I was in fact actually having this conversation with a student earlier today. We can think of the voice has this efficiency of airflow or air use kind of in the middle, in its prima voce, where it feels most comfortable. Some of you refer to it as your tessitura. where we really find ourselves needing to manage air, because right down low, the airflow can need to be a little bit more heightened. And it's also the same for when we get up into falsetto, the air needs to be a little bit more heightened as well. And so the way your voice manages that is going to be something that you need to workshop and really develop your awareness of how your voice is going to work at either extremes, the high or low. And so my encouragement to Vault Boy is to zone in on air, zone in on the way you're managing your air, and then using a program like Voice Essentials, workshop the registers. It's interesting, isn't it? We have come back to workshopping the registers, acknowledging that that's just because we need to do the technical work to empower the facility of communication. And that's a really important thing for us to be thinking through. Now this is a question I don't think I have a really clever answer to be honest. But it's a question here from Ice Wallow Cum. Hey, I moved from below sea level to 7,000 feet in elevation, and I just can't sing now. Any tips? And we'll make this our last question for today. I moved from below, like I said, I don't think when we think about sea level or elevation, we're thinking about how thin is the air, and of course we've all done that fun thing with sucking back on a helium balloon and then talking really funny, and that's because the helium is very thin, and so the vocal folds oscillate in a very different manner, creating a very different rudimentary raw buzz, which is then filtered very different by the vocal tract to give us that funny sound. I'm educated guessing here because I don't think I've ever been to a height of 7,000. In fact, I've never have. I can honestly say, well, in a plane. I do remember jumping. I've jumped out of a plane a couple of times, and we jumped out. I think we jumped out at around about 7,000 feet because I did what's called a static line jump. So I didn't actually have any. I wasn't strapped to anyone, but my parachute ripcord was strapped to the plane, so that when I dropped away from the plane, it pulled the chute. And I think we were at about 7,000 feet. So technically, I guess I can say I've been out in a 7,000 feet, but it wasn't for very long. And I wasn't singing. So I don't know, and I don't know that I've read anything on that, which is really interesting. It makes it a really great question. And so I don't think I can provide an appropriate answer other than to say, there's going to be something in the thinness of the air, the oxygen nitrogen balance, that is leading to that evidently for you is leading to some what's the right word, leading to some interesting outcomes for you vocally. That's me just thinking, problem solving with you. I don't know that I can give you anything more than that. Well, that was a good hangout today. Remember, next week we're going to get together with Michelle, Markwart, Deveaux. I'm pretty sure I have asked her if that's how you say it, and I'm pretty sure in the past she's told me that is. The way to be reminded about the live show, you got to hit the thumbs up button, hit the white bell. Oh, sorry, you got to subscribe. You can hit the thumbs up button. But hit subscribe, hit the white bell icon, and that way you'll get the notification to let you know that we're live. And as I said, next week, the attitude of the singer. Attitude is everything. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know there. But what we're going to really do is unpack the impact of attitude around the development of your voice, around the performance of your voice. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you join us next week, and we'll have a bit of fun. Look, I hope you have a great week. Linda, you need to go and get back to your planning for this coming weekend. Make sure you have a great week, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I very much do look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.